Hello YouTube, welcome back to part 8 of how to use the classic FPS pack. In today's video we're going to be discussing how to set up doors and keys so that you can navigate different parts of the level. The system will be contained of a door that can be opened through a specific key and keys that you can pick up and add to your inventory. Let's go ahead and start off by going into the door system samples and dragging in a door into the scene. Let's open it in the inspector and see what options we have. As soon as we open the door, we'll notice that we have three core components: the door script, the sphere collider, and the dialogue runner. The door script manages the interaction between the player and the door and checks whether or not you have a key before opening the door. It also plays some sound effects and also determines what key needs to be used to unlock the door. The sphere collider is always a trigger and it determines in what position the player has to be able to open this door. You can use any shape that you feel is correct. The dialogue runner is unique. We'll talk about dialogue systems a bit more in a future episode. However, all this does is run a dialogue telling the player that they don't have a key if they try to unlock a door when they don't have the correct key. The current version of the door is using an old animation component. This will be updated to use the new animator as soon as the pack is released, so don't worry about that for now. This means you can go ahead and create animations for the door as you usually would. The animations are created for the pivot point in the door object. Now let's discuss some of the properties in the door component. The first is the key reference. The key reference refers to what key you want to be able to use to open this door. The key options that show up are determined by what keys are in the key manager. We'll discuss that in just a second. Next is an option called locked. If locked is false, then you can open this door without a key. Finally, there are a few sound effects options and animation options. And the last thing is the input action that you want to be able to use to open this door. Currently it's E, but we can change that to anything we want. One thing that we made sure when creating all the scripts in this pack is that it's super easy to read and extend. So if you want to, for example, go ahead and close this door, you can easily do that by looking in the script. Now let me show you what happens when I try to open the door when the door is locked and I don't have a key. Then if I unlock the door in the inspector and then play again, we can see the door open. Now go ahead and add a key prefab into the scene, and let's take a look at the key pickup component. A few of these options we'll discuss in a future episode because it has to do with the saving. However, the only important option for us right now is the collect sound effect that you can assign, as well as the key reference at the bottom of the component. You can set that to what this key is, and if that matches with the door, then this key should unlock that purple door. So now if I press play, I can go ahead and collect that key in the scene, and you'll notice that in the bottom left corner, a new icon has popped up. That represents the icon of the key. I'll show you how to edit that UI in just a second. Now that we have that key, we can go and open this door. One thing you might want to notice though is that the icon disappears. Now we have a bunch of options for these keys that we can set in the key manager. We'll discuss that in just a second. The purple key right now is marked as something called consumable. This means that once I use it, the key will disappear. That means I have to collect another purple key to open another purple door. You can also change what key opens that door, so let me change the key of the second door to be only opened by the orange key. Now let me show you a quick demonstration of how the UI and consumable key works. Let me duplicate the purple key a bunch of times and collect them all. Notice how the keys stack up on the UI. We can change that UI in just a second. Also, when you use that key, one icon disappears from that UI. And of course, you can have multiple types of keys and doors in the same scene. Here you'll notice when we pick up and use the orange key, the icon that shows up doesn't disappear. This is a non-consumable key, meaning it will stay in your inventory even once you've used it. To locate the key manager, first go into the game manager in your scene and find the key manager reference. You can have multiple key managers, and if you switch them out in your game manager, they will reflect those changes in the scene. So what actually is the key manager? The key manager is a scriptable object. It's the same as the weapon manager that we talked about in a previous episode. It's just an object that stays in your project that you can change the settings of. Once you click on it, all you'll notice is a simple list that you can add and remove items from. When you add a new key, you can name it whatever you want, and that will be what you reference it in the scene with. You can select a checkbox you can determine whether or not it is consumable, or you want to allow multiple pickups of that key, and finally the UI image you want to show in the actual UI. So now let me go ahead and create a new key reference called another key, and let me go into the scene and change both the key and the door to use another key, and you'll notice that it works just fine. The last thing to show you is the UI of the keys. You'll notice that most of the UI in the game is actually held within the FPS controller, so open up that prefab and you'll notice where the canvas is. Under the canvas, find the key panel object, and inside that is where all the keys will be rendered. It's rendered through the key UI script. Feel free to look through that script and change how the keys appear on the screen. But if you want to just move it around or reposition it, you can actually move the keys panel itself to where you want it to be. That's all for this video, but if you want more information, you can check out the other tutorials on this channel, or you can check out some of the sample projects. If you want to see this asset pack in action, you can check out some of Thomas Brush's live streams where he's using this pack to build his new game, Father.